Hi guys, I just wanted to get on here and do something a little bit different than normal. The Lord's been laying on my heart to share a little bit of my testimony with you, and just to me, testimony is more just bragging on God and the things that He's done in your life and how He's changed your life, and how He's taken the difficult circumstances of life and made good out of those what seemed like bad situations. And so obviously I'm 36 years old. I can't share every single thing throughout my life that the Lord has done, but I'd like to hit on some of the highlights, I guess, the highlight reel of some of the things that He's done. And starting off with the family that I was born in, I was born into a Christian family, and I don't ever remember not being faithfully in church. My parents always had us there. We knew that if it was a Sunday or a Wednesday, we were going to be in church. And because of that, I was saved at a very young age. I was saved at 5, and I'm so thankful for that. I'm thankful that the Lord helped me understand at a young age and spared me from a lot of the things that happen when you don't get saved young in life. And I know not everybody has that opportunity. Everybody's story is different. But I'm thankful that God put me in a Christian family and the family that He did. And that because of that, I was saved at a young age. So I was saved at 5, and I think I was 8 when I was baptized. I don't remember. That part of my life is a little bit kind of all runs together a little bit. My childhood more runs together, and then I remember more of my teenage years and my college years. When I was a teenager, I was 16 years old. We adopted my little sister, and her name is Sydney Grace. And I had prayed for her from the time I was 5 years old. I wanted a sister so badly, and when I was 16, God blessed us with her. And so that was an answer to prayer in my life. And but it was also a challenging time in my life because we adopted her, and we had her with us for I feel like it was the first month of her life. I know it was at least 2 weeks that she was part of our family, and the mother hadn't signed the paperwork yet. And she was kind of hedging on not wanting to do that, and so she decided not to sign the paperwork, and so we had to give her back. And I allowed that, and I say I allowed because that is exactly what happened. I allowed bitterness to grow in my heart over that. And the Lord intervened on my behalf. 9 months later, He gave Sydney Grace back to our family, had the mother sign the paperwork, and we were able to adopt her 9 months later. But during that 9 months, when I was 16 years old, I went through a lot of bitterness and a very dark time in my life spiritually. Very angry at God, very angry at my parents for allowing it to happen to me. She was my sister, and I couldn't understand why they would let somebody take her back from us when she was our family. And so that was a very, very troubling time for me spiritually, and I really took some steps backwards in my walk with the Lord at that time. But thankfully, God intervened again on my behalf, and He placed good friends in my life, friends that encouraged me to get right with the Lord, to stay close to the Lord, and to not allow this to dictate my life. And I'm so thankful for that. And I say that throughout my life, I can say God has always placed the right people in my life at the right time. And He started doing that with me when I was a teenager and was going through a very difficult time. And when I look through the other things that have happened in my life, He's always placed the right person in my life when I've needed them. And that's a special gift from God. And I think sometimes we don't realize those good gifts and those perfect gifts, friendship, come from above. And God gives us those friendships when we need them. And so I'm thankful for that. That's another thing I'm very thankful for in my life. And it also taught me at a very young age as a teenager how important it was to be the right kind of friend and to have friendships where people were very honest with you and sometimes brutally honest with you, edifying you the right direction and trying to encourage you. But at the end of the day, if you weren't listening, just really kind of getting in my face and telling me you're wrong, you're not handling this right. And I'm thankful for that. Those kind of friendships, and it taught me that I wanted to be that kind of friend to people. I didn't want to just tell people what they wanted to hear in those moments of hardship in their life. So that was another big thing that happened in my life at an early age. And He placed good friends in my life into my college years, and I'm thankful for that as well. I had a lot of friends that really encouraged me to plug into the Lord in a different way, to be more like Jesus. I feel like I really learned that in college. Instead of just checking off of a list of things to do, to be more like Christ. And what did that mean? And so it kind of made me start thinking about how I approached people and stuff like that. And then I would say the next major thing that happened in my life after that would have been at 18. I started having some health issues. Nothing major and nothing necessarily, I would like to say not life-threatening. I did have a couple scares, I guess, but I started getting hives when I was 18 years old for I guess I was 17. No reason that the doctors could figure out. And with that, I started to gather these health issues, just one right after another. And I won't go into all the details of that because the details aren't important. But I will say that through that, God gave me, it was a rough time. I'm not going to lie. That first year was rough and I didn't understand, and it totally flipped my life upside down. I had to figure out a new way to cope and to get through life. And I was in college at the time. As I was kind of learning how to cope with all this, I was in college. I was having a hard time keeping up with my classes and stuff due to my health, and financially I had to quit my job. It was a very challenging time. It literally affected every single aspect of my life. I wasn't able to be in church as much because I was just sick all the time. And we just really couldn't figure out what was going on. And none of the doctors seemed to be able to figure it out. And I really did feel like I understood that story in the Bible about the woman with the issue of blood a lot better. I'll put it that way. I understood her frustration of going to one person after another and no one knowing how to help me. And so I had to learn to trust in the Lord daily in a different way. I'm a very type A personality, and prior to my health issues, I had always fully relied on myself to get myself through the day. Whatever it took, I was going to keep my responsibilities. I was going to make sure I followed through. I was going to be a dependable person, a dependable employee, and I was just going to keep on keeping on. And I literally would go from I'd get up for work at like 7 in the morning, and I'd go from 7 in the morning till 8, 9 o'clock. Almost every single night I was out doing ministry, and I was a very busy person. Maybe too busy at times, but busy person, ministering and, just out having fun. And then also, working a job and going to school and all of those things. And it totally flipped my life upside down. And God used that in a huge way in my life. He used that to teach me to fully rely on Him. He also taught me how to deal with the depression that comes with chronic illness. And I'm really thankful that He taught me to go to the Psalms during those periods of depression. One of the verses that He gave me through that season is, "Soul, why art thou disquieted within me?" That's not a direct quote, but it's very close. So I would ask myself that question when I would find those times where I was just depressed and having a hard time. And at the time I was in a church that really taught that if you were depressed, you had a sin problem. So it was very discouraging. But thankfully, around that time, I also became really good friends before my husband and I were dating, really good friends with my husband, who encouraged me that depression is not always a symptom of sin. That it can be a symptom of health issues and stuff like that, and just being discouraged over your health. And so I'm thankful for that. He brought my husband to me through that season, and I found a man I shouldn't say I found him, God brought me a man who was willing to stand by me regardless of what was going on with my health, knowing what he was getting into, which I thought he was crazy. Why would you, hang around for this? Why would you want to be with someone who is just constantly struggling with their health? And, my days became unpredictable, and I never knew if I could keep my responsibilities. I never knew if I was going to be able to keep up with those and stuff like that. And he was all in, and I'm so thankful for that. God brought me the right man. He brought him all the way from Puerto Rico and me from North Carolina for us to meet in Ohio. And every time I tell anybody that story, everybody's like, that's definitely a God thing. Only God could bring those geographic locations into a small place in a small town in Ohio and have us end up at the same church in an area that's just full of Baptist churches. He put us in the same church at the same time, and we became friends right away. And then, later on dated and got married, and we've been married for 14 years this year. It was 14 years, and it's hard to believe. But he's been a good man. He's been a steady, faithful encourager in my life, and I'm so thankful for him. And so through those health issues, God brought me many, many blessings. I would say that I learned to rely on my family in a different way, and I learned how much my family cared for me and loved me through that season, and I found out what true friendship is. Friends that'll stick by you when you're sick and you don't have much to offer. Those are good friends, because they did not abandon me. I had many friends that did not abandon me. They stood by me and they hung in there with me and went through that season with me. And I'm 36 years old. I'm still dealing with some of the same things. We've learned how to deal with them better. And my doctors, I found some doctors that have been able to help me a little bit to at least be able to manage the symptoms a little bit better. But we continue to go down that journey. It's a season that I continue to go through with the Lord, just trusting him to get me through that, and also realizing that he could heal me tomorrow. And I trust that if he decides to do that, he'll do that. But he's used it as a ministry in my life, and I've been able to minister to other people in a way that is very different than how some people can minister, because I understand what chronic illness feels like. I understand the frustrations, and I understand the weakness that you feel, and the honestly, there's been times where I felt like I'm not worthy, not worth anything, no value, because I don't feel like I can contribute the way that I want to in life. And God's had to teach me that that's not the case. And so I've been able to pass those lessons along to other people, and it's become a ministry. Along with those health issues, the one thing that I'd always wanted as a child, there's nothing that I wanted more in life than to be a mother. I had desired children from the time that I could remember, and because of some of the health issues that I had, I ended up having to have a hysterectomy at the age of 30, and we weren't able to have any children. And so that was a very hard season for me as well. We lost 2 babies that are in heaven before my hysterectomy, and so going through that infertility and then barrenness, that was difficult. It was very difficult for me. The women in the Bible that the Lord talks about barrenness all ended up having children at some point in their lives, and they had to wait for them, and they had to beg the Lord for them, but God ended up giving them children. And so it was very hard for me that that was not my story, and I had to learn to accept that. And but the good thing is because I had learned how dangerous bitterness was as a teenager, because of the lesson the Lord had taught me then, I was able to, with his help, fight off that bitterness in my heart and to accept what the Lord had. And I feel like because of that acceptance, I pray that I've been able to help other women that are going through that. I have been able to minister. That was one of the things I prayed for during that season, was other women to minister through that in their lives. And God has given those people to me, and I'm so thankful for that. Although I hate that they are going through it, I'm glad that they have someone they can talk to about it, because I didn't have anyone. I only had the Lord to go through that season with. And so I want to be more open about that in my own life and be able to try to be there for people. And that being said, God has blessed me with children of a different type. I have spiritual children. And then I have a son that I've adopted. He's adopted me as his mom, and I've adopted him as my child. And he's 20 years old now, but he's been in my life since he was 1.5 years. And so God has given me children just in a different way. And sometimes I think we need to remember that God doesn't always work the way that we think that he's going to work in our lives. And I just want to read these verses really quick. To everything there is a season. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1-8. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill, and a time to heal, a time to break down, and a time to build up, a time to weep, and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get, and a time to lose, a time to keep, and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. And I think that's the thing that's really important in our lives to remember. There's different seasons. And if you're going through a difficult season, remember that God has another season coming after that, and it could be a good season. And He can use these things that are difficult in the season that you're currently in to help you in the seasons to come. And that is what He's done in my own life. God has been faithful to always come through for me and to always bless me in those hard times. It may be hard to see it sometimes when you're in the middle of it, but I always like looking back and all the things that I've mentioned today, and those, obviously those aren't all the things that have happened to me in my life, but those are the things that really stand out that were life-changing for me. That all those things, I would go back and ask the Lord to give them to me because of the lessons learned and the things that I've been through and the things that I've learned and how it's made me a better Christian and a better person. It's made me grow closer to Him. So I pray that you will be able to say the same thing in those difficult seasons in your life. And I hope this has been a blessing and encouragement to you.